My name is Linda Darvo. I'm with the Environmental Protection Agency. I am so excited to be here today. I can't even tell you how excited I am to talk about this new portfolio manager tool. It's finally out. We've been working on this for a couple of years. And I'm such an Energy Star geek. I think the only person who's more of an Energy Star geek than I am is Bill Leahy. And you're an incredible resource for the people of Connecticut, and thank you for all the work that you do. And I want to thank Keith Hill for inviting me here today, and my good friend Lynn Stoddard for all the terrific work she does here in Connecticut. In EPA, we're the federal government, and just in case people don't know this, I like to say this, we have 10 regional offices around the country. I'm in the Region 1 office. It's located in Boston, and we cover the 6 New England states. So we have 9 other regions around the country, and then our headquarters are in Washington, D.C. And our new administrator, who was just confirmed last week, is Gina McCarthy, who was head of DEP a few years ago. And I'm so thrilled that she's our new administrator for 2 reasons. Number one, she's a huge Energy Star supporter. She really supports this program, and which is great for me personally. This is my job. And the other reason is she has a worse Boston accent than I do. So I'm so excited because whenever we have these national telephone calls with all my colleagues around the country, they make fun of my accent. So now I wonder what they're going to be saying. I can't wait to find out. But anyway, so I'm here today to talk about our new portfolio manager tool. You know, I think if we had a theme for our workshop this morning, it would be tools. Everyone has talked about these great tools that we have that are, you know, useful for especially you guys in your positions in school systems. But, you know, Dave's question about why isn't everyone using these tools and taking advantage of these opportunities, I think is a great one. Personally, I think the answer is that people are overwhelmed and they don't know where to start. You're all doing a million different things, 10 different things at once, at all times. We're all wearing a lot of different hats, and it's hard to know where to begin. And that's what is the great thing about Portfolio Manager. It's the place to start. So, you know, Bill talked about the value of benchmarking. This is a study that EPA did that shows that consistent benchmarking results in energy savings and improved performance. And these are buildings that were benchmarked and had a 7% savings over, 4 years. A 6-point increase in their Energy Star score. So it's really important to benchmark. I mean, you benchmark your students. That's why you give them report cards. That's why we do standardized testing. We have to know where they are. What have they learned over the past year? So the important step, to any program is to start a benchmarking. And all buildings can be benchmarked. Not all buildings can get a 1 to 100 score in Energy Star. Schools can. You can get a 1 to 100 score that tells you where you stand compared to the other schools across the country. If you get a 50, that means you're at the 50th percentile. You're doing better than half the schools in the country. If you get a 75 or over, you can get an Energy Star label. And we used to have, does anyone have an Energy Star labeled school here? Yeah. Do you have the old plaque? We used to have these really nice bronze plaques that weighed like 40 pounds a piece. I mean, those things are heavy. And it got to be too expensive for us to mail those out. So we went to a new cling thing that you put on your window, on your glass. It's a sticker, basically, and you put it on it. But it still looks nice. So you can become an Energy Star school if you score 75 or over on Portfolio Manager. But, the important things about benchmarking is that you can compare yourself against a national sample of similar buildings, compare all your buildings of similar types to each other, and you might have different buildings on your campus, and set priorities and targets. And that's really important, especially we work a lot with municipalities. We have a community energy challenge in Region 1, and a lot of them have a lot of different buildings and they really don't know where to start. And then, of course, track your performance over time, and you can gain recognition with the Energy Star score. Anything else I wanted to say? And as Bill mentioned, Energy Star puts all your energy use into kBTU per square foot. And in some towns, I don't I'm not sure Connecticut is like this, but I know in New Hampshire, like Concord, New Hampshire, they have steam, they have natural gas, they have oil, they have propane. So different buildings are heated and cooled in different ways. So they can take all those energy sources and put it into kBTU per square foot so they can compare building to building. So that's another advantage of using Portfolio Manager. And again, it just came out on July 17th. And who uses Portfolio Manager here? Anyone? So you're familiar with the old tool. I told Keith I wanted the name of my talk to be Portfolio Manager. It's not just for engineers anymore, because the old system was so difficult to use. Really, you had to be an engineer to use it, or an expert like Bill. But with the new system, you can navigate with ease. It's much easier to enter your data. It's easier to share, and it has some great new share features. It's easier to set your goals. The target finder is right in Portfolio Manager now. It's not like a separate thing on the website. And the really cool thing is that you can do graphs and charts right in Portfolio Manager. And you can apply online for the Energy Star label. You don't have to mail your application in anymore. One of the great things about being able to do, charts and graphs is that, where you're in schools, you can have your students do this type of stuff. And, a picture is worth 1,000 words. And they can put this into a presentation format and do presentations. I know some of you talked about getting your principals on board with things. Or if you want to make an impression on your school board or your principals, have the kids go do a presentation. Everybody loves a kid. Everybody loves it when kids get involved in this stuff and do the presentations. So now with Portfolio Manager, it's a lot easier to use, and you can have your students doing things like that. I just threw this slide in to demonstrate the importance of benchmarking. These are all places around the country that have benchmarking policies or regulations. Boston, Mass just passed an ordinance where buildings of a certain size have to benchmark using Portfolio Manager. And if they get a certain score, a low score, they have to get an energy audit. Doesn't mean they have to do anything. It doesn't mean they have to spend any money, but it's just encouraging people to benchmark. When we had the meeting with the Boston City Council over whether they were going to pass this ordinance or not, they asked some of the business leaders who came to, vouch for Energy Star, why do you do this? Why do you benchmark? And they said, why doesn't everyone? They said, this is one of our biggest expenses is our energy use. If we're not benchmarking, we're ignoring one of our most important business metrics. And that was a pretty compelling argument. I think the reason that the ordinance actually passed. So to get started in benchmarking, you have to have some data on hand, as you always did with Portfolio Manager. You have to have property information. What's the function? Is it a school? Is it an office building? Is it a house of worship? And I think someone here was in charge of churches, a church as well. The houses of worship can get a score too. And you have to have, your gross floor area. That's probably the most important piece of information that you want to make sure is accurate, because we give you the results in kBTU per square foot, so you want to make sure your square footage is accurate. And then the program will ask you a number of details, and it will walk you through putting that information in, depending on what kind of building you entered. If you say you had a school, it's going to ask you the operating hours, the number of computers, the number of teachers, whether you have a cafeteria that actually cooks meals or you get them, brought in. It will ask you different attributes of a school, but the program will all automatically walk you through that information. And then you need your energy consumption data. You need all your, information, your bills, for a year. And you need a year because the program normalizes for weather. So you need 12 months so it can normalize over the course of a year. Bill's nodding. So if I say something that's not right, Bill, let me know.
I worked real well with schools that you could start with June and end with July. So you actually have 14 months in there, but you have 4 months.
Okay.
Bills may fall middle of July or middle of June. So I usually like to put that way you can get one school year.
Okay.
I think when you
Okay, so start in July and end up in June.
Yeah, well,
Go June to July.
I usually like to add 2 more months, one on either side, so it doesn't get confusing.
Yeah,
First bill, you say give me July through here. July bill started on the 10th of July.
right, okay, yeah. So typically we use like at least 14 months of bills. And a lot of times people want to enter a few years so you can, really start doing your comparisons right away. So this is the new portfolio manager, and this will be, new to those of you who have already used it. It looks a lot different than it used to, and you basically get these tabs. Let's see, it's much easier to use. So the first tab will be on the portfolio level, and that will show you all your buildings, information on all your buildings. And like I have over 900 buildings in my portfolio, so I can see information on all of those when I look on the portfolio tab. But then it goes into the property tab, and you can look up information on each separate building. So there's a lot of different ways to get to the same place. And so it's designed to be like TurboTax, so that you don't have to really remember how to do this. The program walks you through it. I mean, I do TurboTax once a year, and I don't remember from year to year what I did last year, but I don't have to because the program walks me through it, and that's how this is designed to be. And that's a huge improvement. I know we have a lot of towns that we work with, and they want to keep up Portfolio Manager, and we'll sit down with the town administrator or clerk or someone and show them how to use it. But then 3 or 4 months later, when they go back to put their bills in, they can't remember how to use it. So that's been a huge barrier up till now. And I think with the new Portfolio Manager, we won't have that problem anymore because you won't have to remember anything. It will kind of walk you through the whole program. So again, the portfolio tabs are listed across the top of the screen, and this is the My Portfolio page. And the portfolio page automatically loads with your list of properties and 2 charts that you'll be able to customize on the left-hand side, and a list of the account notifications. If you have any notifications that come through, like someone wants to share information with you or anything like that. The Help button on the top right corner will bring you to the new Portfolio Help Manager that's much better than the old one. Also, another big advantage of the new Portfolio Manager is that all of the information that you might be looking for, like what weather station are they getting your information from, how do we figure out the 1 to 100 score, all kinds of questions like that about how this works. Those are all available now in the Portfolio Manager page, whereas before they were spread out all over Energy Star, and it was hard to find them. So now if you have any questions about how did they come up with this number, it's all there. There's links right there on the page to help you find that. Okay, so this is a portfolio level. And this is the property level summary page. And this is, for each property, you'll have a graph and notifications of who you've shared the data with. This is also a huge improvement because over the years, you tend to share your data with different people. Someone like, you might call me for assistance, and I'll say, well, share the data with me so I can look at it. Or Bill, and you lose track over the years of who can see your data. So this way you know right away, and this is a brand new upgrade and huge improvement. We have these new data entry wizards to walk you through the data entry process step by step. And there's also options to import spreadsheets. In the past, if you wanted to use a spreadsheet, you had to fill it out, send it to Washington. They would take at least 24 hours to load it back into Portfolio Manager for you. But this way, we have templates right on the Portfolio Manager. You can fill it in if you'd rather use a spreadsheet to put in your data, and you can just load it right up yourself. So there's 3 ways to enter your data: manually, month by month. You can use a spreadsheet, and in some parts of the country, there's third-party providers. The utilities will do this automatically for you. We don't have any of that in New England yet. And again, here's another look at the page of Portfolio Manager. To add a property, you just click on this button and it will walk you through the whole process. This is what you'll see for the spreadsheets. You just, click on these buttons, and it will automatically give you a spreadsheet to put your data in, very simple, and you can load it right into your buildings. And then, again, web services. We don't have a lot of web services here, but, yeah. Bill. There's no compatibility except that you can use a spreadsheet, you know. Yeah. And then upload it by yourself right away. Yeah. Yeah, which is great. Right. Right. Again, you know, you easily can get started. There's all kinds of pull-down menus. What function is your building? How many buildings do you have that are part of your property? You know, are you designing a building, or do you have an existing building? It just walks you through all these steps, which is really terrific. And there's going to be there's a lot of different automatic alerts that will tell you if you've entered data inaccurately, and this is something that we didn't have in the past, which is great. And this is an example of the floor area comparison. If you have a couple of different uses for your building and you don't enter you want to make sure your floor area is correct, so you might enter one floor area for the pool and one for the office part of your building. The program will check and make sure that those add up correctly. In the past we didn't have this, and people would enter all kinds of data and then get to the end of the program and it didn't work. And you'd have to kind of do this forensic science of going back through everything that you entered to figure out what happened. And it will, give you, again, drop-down menus to identify the sources of your energy and water and meters. This is how you set up your meters, very easy. Just go in and tell them what kind of fuel you're using and how many meters you have. And again, this is another example of alerts. In the past, people would enter their bills and you couldn't have gaps between bills. And some people would go in and enter, 5 years of data with 20 meters, thousands of pieces of data, and they would have a couple of dates that maybe were off, that there were 2 days or 3 days between billings. And they'd call me up and I'd be like, oh no, we'd have to go back through mounds of data to try and find that one date that was like off a little bit, or because the program just couldn't work at all. So now it will tell you if you don't put your bills in correctly. It will alert you to not just the fact that you didn't put them in correctly, but exactly where that issue is. And this is going to be a huge, huge help. And sharing, again, we always could share data with each other, but this now Portfolio Manager tracks who you're sharing it with, which is, a really big help. And you can share multiple properties. You select which properties you want to share, and you can give people different types of access. You can allow them to only read it, or you can allow them to, exchange data where they can send your information on to other people. So everything in between. And this is important if you're working with someone like Bill and you want him to help you with your Portfolio Manager data entry and see what you're doing, but you don't want him to be able to change your data, for example. And again, the new graphs and tables is going to be terrific. I've actually already used this to generate reports for my work plan for next year. We like to go back and look at all the buildings that we've benchmarked and see, what kind of greenhouse gas emissions they've had, and any changes in their performance, so we can go back and generate reports and charts and graphs on all 900 buildings that I have in my portfolio. So this is going to be really helpful. In the past, you had to download the information into Excel. So first you had to figure out how to do that, and then you had to go into Excel and make a chart or a graph. And this is just going to be much easier. There's preset options, or you can design your own options. And then you can also download any of the performance documents you want, the statement of energy performance, all these checklists and things that you need to apply for an Energy Star label if you score 75 or above. This is just an example of some of the data that and the charts and graphs that you can generate. And applying for Energy Star, again, there's a new process widget, they're calling it, and you can do this all online now. Let's go right through the program. An engineer still has to sign off on it, yeah. Yeah, an engineer has to sign off on it, and that is because we did have a school in Boston many years ago that I think they closed the school down, so they didn't use any energy all year, and then they applied for Energy Star. And so that ruined it for everybody. So now you have to have an engineer or an architect. An architect also can sign off on it, and that's just to make sure that you're not doing anything funky. You know, that does cost money, but we do also have a whole list on Energy Star of people who will do that for free, people who are volunteering their time, and I call on these people all the time to come and, especially for houses of worship, they don't have money either to pay for, you know, an engineer to do that. With municipalities, they usually have an engineer on staff somewhere, you know, somebody's an engineer, a PE on staff. But with schools, if you can't get a town engineer to do it, there is a whole database on Energy Star of people who are PEs and are willing to do that for free. So, no, it's anyone with a PE, and anyone with an architect's license can do it. Yep. Yeah, it's usually about $2,000. Yeah, it's about. Yeah, no, LEED. Yeah, LEED is a lot more involved. The Energy Star is just energy. LEED is a lot of different things, so that's a lot more involved. But yeah, if there's no one in your town who can do it, there is a database on Energy Star, and I'll put up there's my contact information. I'd be happy to get you those names and phone numbers, or I can even call them for you and set that up. I'm happy to do that. I do that all the time. Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay. Well, let me know if there's anything I can do to help. I'm happy to help and get. Usually, our headquarters is really responsive to that. We have contractors, you know, who can help you with that. So let me know. Anyways, here's my contact information. Again, thank you so much for your attention. If there's anything I can help you with, you know, give me a call. I always answer my phone calls, and I hope you get on Portfolio Manager and fool around with it and see how much fun it is and get your data in there. You know, it doesn't have to be a big project. You know, you can start with one building or, you know, start with 1 year and see how useful it is to track your data year after year. Thanks so much for your attention. Yeah.
Are you workshops to help people navigate the new Portfolio Manager, or is there some video?
There's a lot of online assistance, and if you go to the Portfolio Manager website, one of the great new things is it's all in one place now. You don't have to search for training. Go to EnergyStar.gov and click on Portfolio Manager. It's right on the front page, and you'll see like a whole list of webinars and trainings. Yeah, and everything should be there. We're not planning on doing a lot of training because I don't think it's going to take much training for people to be able to use this. I don't think it's not like the old system where people really had to be, you know, you really had to go to a training class. I think if you go online and look at one of the webinars, you'll be able to do it easily yourself. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.